We return to Ladies Can We Talk with host Debbie Georgatos on 660 AM The Answer.
Hey there, welcome back to Ladies Can We Talk. We're going to jump right in. I believe we have my friend and Blaze reporter Robyn Walensky on the line. Hello there.
Hey, Debbie, how are you? Great to be on the program.
I'm doing great. Yeah, I'm really, really happy to have you on. I can't believe it's taken this long. Robyn and I have known each other for a while, and she's really kind of a veteran reporter. You've had lots of experience in reporting, and I want to jump in right on 9/11. I don't know if you're able to hear what I was saying in the first segment of the show, but I really think a lot of Americans we go back to 9/11 and we feel all the horror and the upset about it. But I wish we felt like we had okay, so moving forward, what do we do with that energy? What do we do about that? What do we do about that in policy and how we react to it all?
You know, that is a fantastic question. And, you know, I was up here, I'm in New York City and New Jersey for all these 9/11 remembrances. I was standing under the building that morning. I was in the 93 World Trade Center bombing when radical Islamic terrorists tried to take it down, Debbie, the first time, and it never stopped being the goal. And I think in terms of the energy that you're talking about, I think that we are back in a pre-9/11, pre-1993 mindset. And I think that it's very unfortunate that with Common Core and all the misinformation that's being taught to students, the young people, think about this, Debbie, people under the age of, 15 weren't born then. It's students under the age of 18, and so they're getting a lot of misinformation. And I have dedicated my life, and I know you have yours, to educating young people as to what the facts. That's what you have to do with all that energy. I think you have to teach the next generation. I fly on airplanes, and I look at very young flight attendants, and I tell them I was in 9/11 and standing under the buildings. And then when I say, oh, yeah, and I was in the 93 World Trade Center bombing too, they look at me like I have, two heads. They don't even know what I'm talking about.
Isn't that, that's so upsetting? And Robyn, I'm so glad you said that. There was a video we tried to play at the start of the show and that somehow got messed up, but it was students, freshmen at George Mason, which is a great school in Virginia, being asked about what happened on 9/11 or why did the 9/11 attacks happen. Okay, I could just let you guess, but guess who they first blamed?
Oh, B-U-S-H.
Exactly. Blame George Bush. And then one of them even said, I think it's probably something bad we did to them. I'm sure that something economic. And they said at the end of this little video, these kids were 4 years old when 9/11 happened. So I agree with you. It's incumbent on adults to tell their kids, their grandchildren, just people they talk to, why 9/11 happened and what really did happen.
I'm really thrilled that you're asking me that question, because how did 9/11 happen? Really, Debbie, it's two words. It was an intelligence failure. That's what it was. It was an intelligence failure. And what's really disturbing to me, that's what's in the news this week, the big headline of the last, couple of days, has been this brand new disturbing allegation that the Obama administration is now altering intelligence, allegedly, again, we don't know for sure, to make it appear that we're winning the war on terror. Well, there is no war on terror if you ask this administration, but the war on terror and the fight against ISIS and al-Nusra, which is the al-Qaeda affiliate in Syria. And you have 50 spies, you have folks at CENTCOM, career intel people working for the government that are putting their lives on the line, their livelihoods, their jobs, coming forward and signing affidavits that this is the intel on the ground and that folks in the administration, for whatever the quote-unquote agenda is, that the information, Debbie, is being changed. Can you imagine? So for 14 years, it makes me angry. Forget about being a reporter. Forget about where I work. As an American citizen, it infuriates me that for 14 years we have men and women, great Americans, that have devoted their lives to the intelligence, the intel, because 9/11, again, in my mind, was an intelligence failure. And now they've devoted 365 days of the year times 14 years to this, and the administration is changing the information?
I could not believe you went to that story. I'm holding that story in my hand. That was the next thing I was going to go to. And I will, if I tell our listeners, I will put this on the Ladies Can We Talk Facebook page. I'll put the link. You need to read it because it's almost unbelievable. These are people who are, generally speaking, patriotic Americans. They don't want the public, they don't want to have public complaints made against the administration, but they're talking about, we try to tell them this is what's happening. And the exact wording of one of them was, he essentially said, the words and reports go to and they're changed by CENTCOM, which is U.S. Central Command, U.S. Military Central Command, changed by CENTCOM higher-ups to adhere to the administration's public line that the U.S. is winning the battle against ISIS and al-Nusra, al-Qaeda's branch in Syria that you mentioned a moment ago. They're actually talking about this is being described by one higher-up at CENTCOM as a revolt by these intelligence professionals. It's simply unbelievable.
You know what, Debbie, I don't like to speak for other people, but I know you well enough that if you were working there and I was working there and we were sharing an office space, that we would be the type of people, because we believe in the truth, that we would come forward and put our jobs on the line to tell the truth. These people have no agenda other than good old-fashioned hard work, and I really believe if there's smoke, there's fire, and that there's some there. And it's infuriating to me that this is going on. And what does it leak back to? It leaks right back to Benghazi, that it was never a video. The administration knew, folks, hello, it was 9/11, and our embassy is under attack. I mean, it's the exact same thing. The agenda was to reelect the president. The war on terror is over. ISIS is the JV squad, and it goes on and on and on. I think that political correctness, which I guess is a topic for another show, right, Debbie? But the PC police are out in full force. And I just want to mention one more point on 9/11. I don't know how much time we have, but having been in the media and having been a news reporter and a book author and a news manager and having to make split-second decisions, I think that the mainstream media on 9/11 had it right. People were jumping out the window. Their best option was to jump to their death rather than be burned alive. And I think that the mainstream media on 9/11 and in the aftermath, in the few days after, had it right by showing the planes hitting the towers. But for the next 13 years that we haven't shown the video, that we show it maybe once a year, maybe you can find it on the History Channel, that's a huge problem. And it's kind of like the same argument of the Holocaust. You're not going to have a museum. You're not going to show the footage of the Holocaust. Well, history will repeat itself if we don't learn what that history is. And that, as a journalist, that really scares me, that all of the real footage and real audio from that day is kind of few and far between on 364 days of the year.
Robyn, I am so glad you said that. I remember the time when we started hearing the media was saying, we've got to stop running this footage and replaying, reminding people what happened 9/11, because we don't want to instill hatred. We don't want to instill, we want to move on. We want to just treat these people as though they were just kind of criminals one day. In fact, there was a lot of talk about just treat it as a criminal act. I mean, arrest and prosecute the perpetrators. I mean, they were all dead, but I mean, the notion was not to admit the source of it, which was essentially radical Islamic thinking. And we had a media protecting them more than the American people, because it was allowing the American people to become ignorant, uninformed, and soft, and ultimately then defenseless.
It's absolutely sickening. And when I was working up here in New York City for the mainstream media, my third book is going to be all about media bias. And some of the bosses that I had a fight with in years later after 9/11 to even go out and cover 9/11, you would not believe what you are up against in fighting in the mainstream media, even at alleged conservative outlets. So we'll just leave it there. But it's the same group of people on the East Coast and the West Coast making decisions about what video you see, what audio your children hear, the words, and it's terrible and it's bogus, and it bothers me, and I'm trying to do something about it by telling truth. I think we cannot have this cover-up. In my book, Covering Catastrophe, which is a journalism project that was all charity, it's 9/11 through the eyes of the reporters who were there. And so all these doubters and all these people with, grassy knoll theories, et cetera, about 9/11, this is through the eyes of the people that were standing there in New York, D.C., and Pennsylvania. And so, long after we're gone, that book will still be alive to tell the truth.
I love it. We're talking with Robyn Walensky. She's with Blaze Radio. I want to ask you, if you can take a second, Robyn, just tell our listeners how they can find your work, your books, and find you online. Let them know who you are.
Oh, sure. On Facebook, I'm Robyn Walensky. On Twitter, it's Robyn Walensky at Robyn Walensky 1. And my books are on Amazon under my name. They both come up. I also did a second book on the Casey Anthony trial. A portion of the proceeds of that also go to charity. So, I've been covering criminals and terrorists for many, many years. I want to go back and hit one point that you bring up, being an attorney and such, about, you were saying about the law, criminal matters and such. In 1993, the World Trade Center bombing was treated as a criminal matter by Bill Clinton and then Attorney General Janet Reno. And Sheikh Omar Abdel Rahman and Ramzi Youssef were tried in federal court in New York City. And the reason I know is because I was there in the courtroom. And the prosecutor, McCarthy, who's often seen on Fox News and CNN, Andrew McCarthy, he said, Your Honor, it was the goal of these two terrorists to topple the towers. So my question is, in 8 years, when did it ever stop being the goal? Osama bin Laden was very patient and planned and plotted from the cave. The 19 hijackers were a bunch of thugs that we trained. Many of them were under arrest by the Israeli government in the past, if you look up some of their backgrounds. And some of these people were under arrest for other things in our country. We trained them how to fly planes into our buildings. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And now we're up against Obama trying to close Gitmo. And who's the top terrorist at Gitmo? The radical Muslim thug who plotted 9/11. And they want to try him in the criminal courts. I mean, really?
Yep.
Ali Sheikh Mohammed.
Yep. We are speaking with Robyn Walensky, who is, she and I are good buddies. We actually have great conversation about politics on and off the air. But I want to thank you for calling in. It's just so fun to talk with you. And thanks for all the insight you supplied about 9/11. And this is Debbie Georgatos. And ladies, can we talk on 660 AM The Answer? Come back after our break and we'll tune back in and talk a little more about 9/11.